Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we've all taken online surveys. We trust our answers are helping a company get better or a scientist make a new discovery. We kind of assume all that data paints a truthful picture. But what if that picture is a total lie? Today, we are diving into the hidden world of false identities in online data, a problem so big it can actually warp our understanding of reality. So just for a second, think back to the last one you filled out, right? Maybe it was for work, that annual employee engagement thing, or maybe a quick poll about workplace culture. You probably spent a few minutes giving your honest feedback. But here's the kicker, the question that changes everything. How does the person on the other end really know it's you? You know, a genuine employee from the right company giving real answers. And not just some random person clicking through to get a gift card. And listen, this isn't some small theoretical what if. It is a massive real-world challenge in web research called false identities. We're talking about participants who are not who they say they are, and they are silently corrupting the very data that businesses and scientists depend on every single day. And when I say massive, that might be an understatement. Get this, the research we're looking at points to one study where over 50% of the participants were suspected of being fakes, more than half. That's not a rounding error. That's enough to completely destroy the credibility of any study. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at who's really answering these things. Then we'll see why fake data is so costly. After that, we'll get into how to unmask these folks using IP addresses. Then we'll look at a tale of two very different data sets, see if this new method is better than the old ways of cleaning data, and finally, we'll wrap up with a whole new playbook for doing research. Okay, let's dive right in. Who exactly are these mystery respondents, and what do we even mean by a false identity? Well, a false identity can actually mean a few different things. It could be someone just misrepresenting their background, lying about their job or where they live just to get into a survey. Or it might be one person taking the same survey over and over again from different accounts to get more rewards. And in a lot of cases, it's someone who isn't even part of the group being studied at all, like someone from an overseas survey farm pretending to be a US employee. All of these just poison the data.
So what? Why should we care? What's the real damage when this kind of bad data gets into the system? Well, the bottom line is really simple. Garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't matter how fancy your statistics are, if your data is junk, your conclusions will be junk too. You're basically building a house on a foundation of sand, and you know what happens next. The whole thing just collapses.
And this has huge real-world consequences. Imagine a company trying to fix employee burnout. They run a survey, but the bad data points them in the wrong direction, maybe towards some minor issue, while the real problem, let's say terrible management, gets completely ignored. So they waste a year and a ton of money on a useless wellness app, and their best employees just keep quitting. The risk here is that the bad data doesn't just muddy the waters, sometimes it can flip reality completely upside down. So faced with this huge threat, the researchers behind this study came up with a surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful method to figure out who was really behind the keyboard. Their secret weapon? The humble IP address. The best way to think about it is like a digital license plate. Every single device that connects to the internet, your phone, your laptop, everything has one. And just like a license plate on a car, it tells you a lot about where that device is coming from. So using this digital license plate, researchers could sort participants into two big buckets. First, you've got your targeted participants. These are people using normal internet providers, like Comcast or AT&T. Their license plate looks legit. But then you have the non-targeted participants. These folks are using services like VPNs, which are literally designed to hide a user's real location and identity, which is, of course, a huge red flag for a researcher. And they didn't stop there. They added another layer of analysis, something called an IP threat score. It's basically a score from 0 to 1 that tells you how sketchy an IP address is. An IP address close to 0, it's clean, looks like normal web traffic. But a score getting close to 1, that means it has a suspicious past. It might be a known source of spam or used for online fraud. Okay, so armed with these two tools, the type of internet provider and that threat score, the researchers split their data. And then they compared the survey answers from the good group against the suspicious group. And what they found was absolutely wild. I mean, just look at this. The difference in quality was like night and day. The non-targeted group missed more than twice as many simple attention check questions, the ones that say, please select agree here. Their reliability score, which just measures how consistent their answers are, was less than half that of the real participants. And they barely answered any of the optional open-ended questions. In short, their responses were careless, inconsistent, and they just weren't engaged at all. And the differences went way beyond just data quality. It actually changed the substance of the answers. This chart here shows how people rated their own job performance. The real employees, the targeted group, they rated their performance way higher than the non-targeted, likely fake group did. Just that one difference is enough to completely change a study's conclusions about employee performance.
And folks, here it is. This is the absolute bombshell. When the researchers looked at the full, messy data set, they found something bizarre. Having a good relationship with your manager actually increases your stress. I mean, come on, that makes zero sense, right? But when they filtered out all the fake data and looked only at the clean group, the story totally flipped. A good manager had nothing to do with stress. What really mattered was organizational justice, feeling like the company is fair. The fake data didn't just tweak the results, it created a completely false story that would send any company down the wrong path. Now, you might be thinking, hold on a second, don't researchers already have ways to screen out bad data? And you're right, they do. But the big question is, are those methods actually good enough to catch these more sophisticated fakers? So to find out, the researchers put their IP analysis method to the test. They pitted it against 5 of the most common data cleaning techniques used today. You know, things like kicking out people who answer too fast, who fail those attention checks, or who aren't consistent. These are the standard tools of the trade. And the result? It was a total knockout. The paper says that even after using all 5 of those traditional cleaning methods at the same time, there were still huge, meaningful differences between the real group and the fake group. Basically, standard filters might catch the lazy fakers, but they are completely blind to the more clever ones hiding behind VPNs, the exact ones that IP analysis can spot in a second. So what does this all mean for the future of online research? Well, the researchers didn't just point out a problem. They gave us a clear, actionable solution. A whole new playbook for anyone in any company who needs to collect data online. And this is their new playbook. It's a super logical decision tree. First, you start with the simple stuff. Check for duplicate IPs. Easy enough. Then you do the real analysis. For every single person, you check their internet provider type and their IP threat score. This lets you sort them. The data from regular internet providers with low threat scores, that's your clean data. You keep it. The data from proxy servers with high threat scores, that gets flagged and tossed out. And for anyone in that gray area in the middle, you can use other checks to make the final call. It's a powerful and practical way to bring some integrity back to online data. You know, this whole thing leaves us with a much bigger, more provocative question. In a world where digital anonymity makes it so easy to pretend you're someone else, this research gives us a powerful new tool for verification. But it also forces all of us to think a little deeper about the nature of trust in our digital age and what it really takes to get an honest answer. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.